Let's get back to these flying changes exercises that we started because I have many more to share with you. So today we're going to look at exercise number 4. And I want to encourage you to ask any questions that you have, even about your individual problems. I will help in any way possible. I will share whatever knowledge I have, and hopefully that will help you. Hey guys, okay, so we're back for flying change exercise number 4. So this exercise is again a building on exercise 1, 2, and 3. So now we're going to take our exercise to the circle. So you're going to want, basically this is going to be switching from true canter to counter canter and counter canter to true canter. And we'll get a little bit more into exactly how that works. But you're going to want, say you're in left lead and you're in true canter, you're going to want to use exercise number 2, where you supple to the new inside, so that you're suppling and counter bending to the right, so that then you can ask for the change to the right, but you're staying on the circle, okay? So what this looks like is, if, let's say we're going to go true canter to counter canter. And this is really good for horses that have a tendency to scoot off. Like you ask for the change and they're like, whoa, and they kind of scoot off into the canter. It's a little harder for them to hold the balance in the counter canter. So if you ask for true canter to counter canter, but you're staying on the same circle, so you're on a 20-meter circle going left and you're on the left lead, and you can do these through the walk. Again, this is another exercise that you can do through the walk. So you can go true canter on the circle, walk, counter canter on the circle, walk. Okay, so this is a sort of a more complicated than exercise number 1, because now we're on, you can make it a 10-meter circle, a 15-meter circle, a 20-meter circle. I would start with a larger circle, okay? 10 meters is really kind of tight. I really wouldn't, I would not do it that tight. So let's nix. No 10 meters. 15, 20-meter circle. So you're going to be cantering left. You're going to supple the new inside, which would be to the right. You're going to stay on the left canter circle, and you're going to ask for a flying change basically to the counter canter to the outside. Now, you can also use this where you're going left, but you're on counter canter. And sometimes this is really helpful for the horses because they naturally want to change over to the easier lead. Obviously, on a 20-meter circle, it's easier to be on the left lead if you're going left than it is to be on the right lead. So this can set horses up that they naturally want to be like, oh, I'd rather be on the left lead here. So you're counter cantering to the right, you're going left, you're going to soften them to the inside of the circle, which would be to the left side. So this would be a counter bend. Okay, counter canter, counter bend, but we're going left. So I hope you're following me here. And then when they're soft and supple to the inside, you straighten, you ask for the change. Okay, so this is a really good way to keep the horse, to like straighten the horses between your aids in the circle. And it's also, you can help this this exercise sort of play to your advantage. So if you have a horse that feels like, ooh, it'd be easier to be on the true canter, I would start in counter canter and ask then to change to true canter. If you have a horse that has a little bit of an issue of wanting to scoot out underneath of you in the canter, I would go true canter on the circle and I would make the change to the counter canter. Okay, so that's where I would use that exercise. You will also find that with the same horse, depending on the direction you are going, that one works better than the other. So you might find that your horse actually likes this exercise to be different depending on which direction they're going. So what I mean by that is your horse might actually say, oh, going from left to right, the horse likes to go from true canter to counter canter, but going right to left, they like to go counter canter to true canter. Okay, so you're going to have to play with that a little bit and figure out which one your horse likes. Now, they might like it both directions. They might be able to do it either way. That might not matter, but they might prefer, true canter to counter canter, both directions. They might prefer counter canter to true canter, both directions. You're just going to have to play with the exercise. Again, this is one that you can do through the walk. So it's very easy to sort of school it, get the rhythm down, get all of the pieces put together while you're doing it through the walk. And then when everything feels like it's copacetic, then you can go and ask for the flying change. Okay. Again, concentrate on your body, that you're staying in the positioning of whatever canter that you are in. So if you're in right lead canter, no matter which direction you're going, your body is positioned for right lead canter. If you're in left lead canter, no matter which direction you're going, that your body is positioned for left lead canter. Okay? So that is exercise number 4. My own personal experience with this is I had a horse that actually did better in true canter changing to counter canter. It helped him not get as nervous about the changes. There was some dynamic that it was easier for him to come through behind when it actually was that the hind leg was changing to the outside. So just keep that in mind, like that you sometimes have to sort of figure out which exercise best works for your horse, and that it might not be what you think it is. And just, I would have not even have thought that this exercise would have worked for my horse at all. But I was in a George Williams clinic and he had me do it, and I thought it was really helpful. And the whole process of being able to do a canter and counter canter on a 20-meter circle is a good exercise, again, for developing that canter and the quality of canter and being on the aids that is so important for developing the flying changes. I want to note here that Anya Baran talks about this exercise, and what is super important once you go on the circle to think in your mind is that the horse, all these exercises is that we're talking about is so that you have the suppleness and you have the straightness, because a horse that is crooked is not going to be able to change cleanly. So this exercise in particular, you want to make sure, because now you're on the circle, so it's more complicated, right, to have that straightness and that suppleness than maybe that you feel that you can get on the straightaway. It's really important that you have that straightness, meaning that the horse is not bracing and that you have the suppleness to be able to move their body around on the circle and to keep the same dimension of the circle. So do not have the circle, oblong. Do not have the circle go in and out. You want to stay committed to your 20-meter circle where you set up that 20-meter circle, whether that's at E and B around X, or whether that's at A or C, wherever you're doing it, that you stay committed to that 20-meter circle and that you stay committed to the dimensions being correct, okay? And then you're going to want to make sure that your horse is cantering on his hind legs, that he is not leaning, that he is not falling on the forehand. And you want to make sure that you're able to straighten them before the change. And what I mean by that, I've kind of talked about this in the other videos, but let me specify. Straight between the aids when you go to the change means that both hind legs are stepping up underneath of your seat bone, and that the horse has got the freedom up front, and that they're soft and supple, that there is no there's no difference in the left and the right reins, that there is equal pressure in both reins, and that you are not taking back with one or the other, okay? So that you have this horse that is carrying itself, supporting your weight with both hind legs coming underneath your seat bone, and then all the freedom up front to be able to do the change. And this is why the quality of canter is so important when you're going to teach the changes, because this is the way that the horse can jump through from behind into the new change, okay, into the new lead. And so in this exercise in particular, it can, because it's a little bit more complicated, you can set up the horse that they might want to have haunches go one direction or the other direction, or have the shoulders go one direction or the other direction, and you really want to make sure they're on their hind legs and they're straight before the change. And that is with every change. You want to make sure that the horse is straight before the change. You do not want them to be crooked going into the change. If you cannot ride the horse straight before asking for the change and have that equal suppleness and both hind legs working equally, you won't get a clean change. And that's when you have to go back to the walk and the canters, right? To be able to have that ability to set the horse up for the clean change. So it's teaching the flying changes is, a great exercise in and of itself, because it really hones your ability to soften your horse, to supple your horse, to ride your horse through, and to keep your horse in the correct balance. So you have that whole part of it, how to control your horse, how to control yourself, and then the horses has to learn how to change their leads. So that's what makes flying changes so much fun, but it also is what makes them so challenging. And if you're going into this endeavor and never having done it before, these first 3 exercises can be done, the first 4 exercises can be done through the walk. And that's really important to help solidify both you and your horse's knowledge about the canter quality and the flying change. Okay, see you in the next one.